Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting 25-year-old me. Like, start from the beginning. Like, how's our husband? How's our kids? Wait, what? Remember, that was our plan. Get married by 23, have kids by 25. Yeah, well, things just didn't go to plan. Really? But surely there must be men out there serious enough about making you their wife. Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Okay, wait, tell me about our career then. Like, we must be climbing the corporate ladder. Yeah, climbing the corporate ladder is a big question mark, but I do make videos on YouTube. What is it that you do on YouTube? Well, I mainly do comedy skits. Comedy skits? Yeah. Alright, so you've clearly not followed the plan. So could you tell me something that will cause a butterfly effect so I end up in a totally different timeline? Oh my god, it's not as bad as you think. I actually learned a couple things along the way. Really? Like what? Okay, 25 things I learned in 25 years. Let's go. Okay, so the first lesson is that life is probably not going to go to plan, but you should embrace it anyway. So that whole skit that you just saw pretty much just embodied that kind of sentiment. Once you get older, you realize that, yeah, the life that you thought it's probably not the life that you're living at the minute. So that's kind of why I put it in there, just to make it more funnier, more relatable. Maybe your life isn't going in the direction you thought it was going to be, but that's something you should embrace, learn from it, be open to other opportunities. You might actually find something you care more about along the way. Another thing I learned in my 20s is that mindset is everything. It informs your behaviors and it forms like where the direction of your life is going. Another thing I learned is the importance of having a relationship with God. And this is one of the things that maybe sparked more of my relationship with God. So you know people that made it in life and they do like speeches being like, I thank God and he brought me here and da 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 da. And they always would say it and they genuinely would mean it, and seeing how like their life kind of changed. I think like ever since I kind of took my relationship with God more seriously, I have definitely seen like a change in my life. Another thing I learned is that going to therapy is actually okay and so beneficial. If it wasn't for going to therapy and then also like building like a relationship with God, I don't think this channel would actually exist, because I think with therapy, it really does reframe your mindset. The two things that are like so like in sync when it comes to like religion and like therapy is a concept of grace and not being so hard on yourself all the time. Have more like self-love towards yourself. That's kind of how you progress more. Another thing I learned is that trust that things will work out. I remember the time as well was like, oh my gosh, I need a job in the legal industry. I want to go do my LPC. There was just so many like uncertainties in a sense. And then like now it's like, I've got the legal job, I'm doing the LPC. If someone told me like last year, I would be chilling. Me in a couple of years time, I'll probably be chilling and I'll be like, why was I spending so much time worried about like certain things in the moment when it was like things I was just gonna like be able to like work out in a sense. Another thing I learned is improve by 1%, and I learned this through this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Everyone goes on about this book. It's genuinely worth the hype. He was literally pretty much just talking about like every single day your aim should just be improving by 1%. It's not you have to improve by leaps and bounds, because over time they talk about the cumulative effect or the compound interest. If you keep improving by 1% overall, it's going to be an uphill trajectory. Another thing I learned is being an introvert is actually a superpower. So if you didn't know, I would say I probably am definitely more introverted. With me, it's like, okay, I'm on camera, cool, but it's like when I'm at home, please, I just want to be left alone in a sense. Like I love my downtime. Like I said, I love sleeping, I love watching shows. And I actually read this book recommended by a friend. She read it and she said it was great, and then I read it and I was like, no, this is amazing. Like it kind of just broke down kind of like what introversion is in general and kind of like people's misconceptions of it, and also just how to like use it as a strength, because I think obviously in this world being introverted is like something you have to kind of like improve upon. But being introvert, you have so many skills. It's helped me on my creative journey. Like I'm more introspective, more analytical over like what I'm doing. Also in terms of even creativity. The thing is like a lot of my faves are even like introvert. Like Munya, who does like comedy skits, Issa Rae, Beyonce. So many people who are like successful are saying they're introverts, and it's like it actually is something to be championed, and it's something to actually look as like a strength as opposed to something you need to fix about yourself. Another thing I learned is about the cure to comparison, and I actually got it from this guy on TikTok and Instagram. His name is Albana C. Eugene Jr. and he was talking about comparison in general, and he was saying that a lot of the times when we talk about comparison, people are like, well, you never know what that person is going through, like the grass isn't greener on that side. And he challenged that thought and he was like, well, imagine if they're happy. Imagine if the person you're comparing yourself to is actually genuinely happy, and that's something you genuinely want for yourself as well. He said the real cure to comparison is focusing on yourself, and I thought that was such a good point, because it's like once you're focused on yourself, you kind of look out other people and what they're doing, in a sense. Like, just be like, okay, I'm focusing on myself, I want to get to this stage. Actively are actually being proactive in your progression, and I've actually taken his advice and I genuinely think it does help. Another thing I learned is that opinions are not facts. When someone has an opinion about you, they're not facts. You don't need to internalize what people say about you and know that it's just their opinion. And that's why it's always good to know yourself and like kind of like reflect on who you are as a person, as opposed to like taking other people's kind of like skewed, maybe they don't even know you, maybe you're not even showing them the full version of yourself, perception of you. Another thing I learned is trust how you feel. I remember I was watching You, and there was this girl who was like, if that small voice in your head ever tells you you deserve better, you need to trust her, because that's your true love. And that's it. Like, you need to trust in your ability to know when something's wrong. Yes, trust yourself, because you know you best. Another thing I learned is that life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, but about learning to dance in the rain. And I think that's such a good quote, because it's like you're always waiting for like the storm to clear, or you're like trying to wait for like peace and serenity and like, oh yeah, things will get better. But it's learning to just kind of like look for the good things that are happening around you, as opposed to just only focusing on, oh, like, you know, when I get here, then yes, I'll be happy and da da da. Another thing I learned is how to find purpose in your pain, and not to get spiritual or like I'm giving a sermon or whatever, but I think being able to like take like maybe something tough that happened to you, or like kind of like your situation or where you are now, and like turn it into something like positive. Yeah, trying to find more good in the bad. Like, a lot of people, like even comedians, like some comedians have gone through crazy stuff, but they kind of like used all their pain as material, and that kind of helps them in their healing process, because it's like therapeutic for them. It's like they're telling their truth and they're also like laughing about it, so it's kind of doesn't have that hold over them in a sense. So it's like just, yeah, being able to take control of the situation that you're in, as opposed to like feeling like it's in control of you. Another thing I learned is that there's a season for everything. Yeah, I feel like in life you're gonna have up seasons, you're gonna have down seasons, you're gonna have great seasons, you're gonna have terrible seasons, you're gonna have all the seasonings, yeah? That's why comparing yourself to other people is not the best in general. It's not smart, because it's like you could be in your down season, someone could be in their peak season, and you're comparing, like, it doesn't make sense. Another thing I learned is that feeling behind in life is actually a normal feeling, and people feel that in like so many different stages of their life. Even when I made that video about figuring out my life in 4K, I genuinely sat there and thought I was the only one trying to figure out my life. I'm being dead serious. That's why I made it. I didn't even think, and people actually related to it. But I said genuinely, it's a common feeling. If you're like focusing on yourself and your own race, you can't really be behind, because you're the only one running your race. So technically you're in front. Okay, another thing I learned is that self-care tips really help. Just find what works for you. Even exercise, going to the gym, that's still self-care. Watching funny stuff, meditation, journaling, and just explore different avenues of self-care, and then do the stuff that you feel like works for you. One other thing I learned is about productivity tips. They also really help. Ever since I started the LPC, working, content creation, I had to organize my life to stay productive. To-do lists are great. Watching like productivity YouTubers like Ali Abdal, reading books, watching interviews with successful people, what they do really helps. So yeah, get into productivity stuff really does help. Next thing I learned is everything is basically a skill, and you can pretty much get good at anything if you just give it time. Like, the more you do things, the less scary it becomes, and so you're just more comfortable with it. So I think that applies to everything. So basically everything's a skill. Another thing I learned is that adulting is hard. Yes, this is a very good one. Having a 9 to 5 is hard. Having bills, it's hard, everything. Yeah, being an adult, no one told me about this. Find ways to, yeah, make adulting not suck as much. Pretty much. Another thing I learned is that consistency is key. Honestly, I think the first time I actually learned about consistency in like my adult life is probably through skincare, because it's like every single day I would like try and do my skincare routine. Even on the days I didn't feel like it, I would do it. Even the time I was like, I just want to go to bed, I could just sleep on with my makeup on. I did it. Like, even on the days where I was like, seriously, maybe I should just have a day off, I still did it. I wasn't perfect, but I was really, really sticking at it, and I saw the results. And it's crazy, like, even these days where, listen, I need to really get back into skincare. Even these days, people are like, oh my god, your skin is so nice, oh, I love your skin. And it's like, this is like, from 4 years ago, my skincare routine is still like coming in through. So it's like, you're not gonna see immediate results, but in a couple years time, like, you're gonna see the results in a sense. So if you genuinely stick at something consistently, it tends to work. Another thing I learned what consistency actually does mean. It's not about perfect consistency, it's about being consistent in things, but also like having room to kind of like pivot or like change it. I mean, let's say like I started off with like blogging, which I actually did, fun fact, but I didn't blog the way that I was supposed to blog. But I was like, let me start a blog. But I'm like, okay, cool, you know what, actually I don't really want to do blog, let me do YouTube. It's still like a creative avenue. You can kind of change like the method of how you're doing it, but in essence it's pretty much the same thing. But I feel like you can still be consistent with your goals and your values and what you want to get out of it in essence, but the way that it looks, you don't need to be so fixed on it unless you want to. Then you can always circle back. You can try new things and always circle back. Another thing I learned is I'm not good at this. See, I'm just reading from this. I'm not good at this, but show up as yourself. You never know who could help. That's a good one. Okay, so I forgot what I wrote this a while ago, but I basically saying that yes, showing up as yourself, like your true, authentic, genuine self, and kind of just like saying, okay, like, I actually need help in this avenue, or can you help me? Even in the times where I do think about like where I showed up as like my true, authentic self, like things actually were able to progress. Another thing I learned is to put yourself out there, try new things. And that's very, very true, because the thing is, like, yeah, me starting YouTube is definitely me putting myself out there. I would have never expected to do like the comedy skit stuff, as I always talk about, just still even be on this journey of like still doing YouTube. Who would have thought being able to realize that actually I do have creativity, that I actually kind of want to explore, like all of those kind of things. Like, that's why it's good to try new things, because you actually never know like where it can go. So yes, a very big advocate of trying new things. Ooh, this is a good one. I'll say another thing I've learned is my story doesn't need to look like everyone else's story. And I think that's where sometimes imposter syndrome comes in. I genuinely thought I never had imposter syndrome, but I think I actually do. I think even in the YouTube space, like, I kind of do have a little bit of imposter syndrome, even like in the creative world, because it's like, listen, like I say, I never thought I was a creative. Like, through reading books, you realize everyone's story is so completely different. So it's like my story will be different as well. Another thing I learned is read books or listen to audible and podcasts. Like, you literally learn about like a lot of successful people and like how they got to where they got to. And in essence, even though I say everyone's storyline is very different, but in essence, a lot of people are just like making it up as they go along. You realize that they're just human. Literally, they're human at the end of the day. And it humanizes their stories, and it kind of, yeah, gives you inspiration that, yeah, you can actually do what you want to do, because like pretty much, and everyone's just winging it, essentially. Even me, I'm like definitely winging it. Last one. So being lost is not a bad thing, because that's one of the best ways to find yourself. I like that a lot, because it's like, I think in our 20s, like, I think this is honestly a universal 20 feelings. It's like, you just feel lost. You're just like, I don't know what's going on. You're like, am I gonna feel like this for the rest of my life? Like, everything feels like shifting, moving, changing, uncertainties, figuring out what you want to do. Is it the right move to make? Should I do this? Should I do that? Like, there's just so many things that you're like trying to figure out. And I think through like being able to kind of unpack what are the things you want, what are the things you don't want, what are the things that bring you joy, what are the things that don't bring you joy, you're able to find out more about yourself. And I think through that, you're able to know kind of what you want from your life, in a sense, or what you want your life to look like. And I think it's just every step at a time. Yeah, I hope the 25 things that I learned in 25 years has helped you. I feel like they really helped me. Give it a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video.